JonBenét's family now hoping that, plus renewed public interest and new DNA technology, might finally help close this case.
The JonBenét Ramsey case has captivated and horrified America for nearly 30 years, leaving a chilling trail of secrets, lies, and wild theories. At its heart lies the dark side of a seemingly perfect family, shattered by the horrific discovery of their 6-year-old daughter found dead in her own home, just hours after a bizarre ransom note materialized. This wasn't just another crime. It was a deeply perplexing mystery, obscured by police missteps, overwhelming media scrutiny, and a public hungry for answers. While fingers were pointed and debates raged, the truth remained hidden in plain sight. But now, new and startling evidence has emerged, promising to unravel the case and reveal a more sinister reality than anyone imagined. Could this finally be the conclusion the world has been waiting for? Prepare yourself, because what's about to be revealed might leave you shivering. For decades, it seemed the JonBenét Ramsey case would forever remain cold, with police seemingly stuck, circling the same theories, while the public speculated endlessly about how anyone could commit such a horrific act against a young child. Years passed, and the case grew colder, but advancements in technology began to change everything. When JonBenét was murdered in 1996, DNA science was still in its infancy. Investigators had collected minute DNA samples from her clothes and under her fingernails, evidence that belonged to an unidentified man. However, the technology of the time couldn't extract enough information. As forensic science improved, new methods allowed experts to analyze even the smallest fragments of DNA. One significant breakthrough was genetic genealogy, a technique that uses family trees and DNA databases submitted by everyday people searching for their ancestry. Even if a criminal never submitted their DNA, their relatives might have, which could help piece together the puzzle. In 2024, the police turned to this method, partnering with Parabon Nanolabs, a company known for solving cold cases using advanced DNA tracing. A newly enhanced DNA profile was generated and uploaded to a public DNA database. While it didn't immediately match anyone directly, it did link to distant relatives, perhaps cousins, which was a major clue. Investigators then spent months building detailed family trees, examining old records, social media posts, and more. Eventually, they identified a man who fit the profile perfectly. In 2024, he was around 62 years old. Back in 1996, he had been 34 and living just 2 miles from the Ramsey home. He had worked for a catering company that hosted events in the Ramsey neighborhood, including one just a few houses away from their home that Christmas. This man had never been considered a suspect before, though he had a criminal record for non-violent offenses like burglary and fraud. He wasn't seen as a threat to children and had never been interviewed by the police. After JonBenét's death, he quietly moved away from Colorado, relocating to Arizona, Nevada, Texas, and eventually Washington State. Police secretly collected his DNA from discarded items like a coffee cup or cigarette butt. The results were a exact match with the DNA found on JonBenét's clothing. The odds that it belonged to anyone else were astronomically small. A search of his home and storage unit uncovered more clues. A jacket from the 1990s with fibers matching those on JonBenét's clothing, and newly analyzed handwriting from his past job records that resembled the ransom note. While it's unclear whether he knew the Ramsey family personally, he may have simply learned about them from working in the area and taken advantage of their post-Christmas travel plans. Authorities are now meticulously reviewing all the evidence before making an official arrest. For JonBenét's family, this revelation brings a sense of closure after years of pain and unanswered questions. But how exactly did the events of that terrible December morning unfold? Why did the investigation fail so badly? And who allowed critical clues to slip through the cracks? December 26, 1996, changed everything. JonBenét's mother, Patsy Ramsey, discovered a long, strange ransom note on the staircase just after Christmas. Unusually lengthy, at over 2 pages, the note demanded a specific amount, $118,000, which was suspiciously close to John Ramsey's work bonus. Panic-stricken, Patsy called the police, fearing a kidnapping, but the initial response from law enforcement was flawed. They treated the situation as a kidnapping, not a murder. Only JonBenét's bedroom was cordoned off, and the rest of the house was left unprotected, compromising critical evidence. This early misstep would haunt the case for decades, allowing the real killer to escape unnoticed until now. Because of the poorly secured crime scene, family members and friends were unknowingly allowed to move freely around the house, potentially contaminating crucial evidence. Later that same day, John Ramsey, JonBenét's father, tragically discovered her lifeless body in the basement. She was only 6 years old. Her body showed signs of severe trauma. Her skull had been fractured, and she had been strangled with a homemade garrote fashioned from a cord and part of a paintbrush that belonged to her mother. Although there were indications of sexual assault, forensic experts couldn't confirm conclusive evidence of rape. The official cause of death was asphyxia by strangulation along with a traumatic head injury, making it clear that her death was the result of a brutal homicide. JonBenét was buried in St. James Episcopal Cemetery in Marietta, Georgia, next to her half-sister, Elizabeth, who had died in a car accident just 4 years earlier. The family was devastated by the loss of 2 daughters in such heartbreaking circumstances. From the beginning, the investigation was riddled with missteps. One major error was allowing John and Patsy Ramsey to be interviewed together, which is against standard protocol as it can lead to shared or influenced answers. Additionally, moving JonBenét's body further damaged key evidence that might have helped reconstruct the events in the basement. The ransom note found in the home raised further suspicions. It was unusually long, about 2.5 pages, and written on paper from inside the house, strongly suggesting it may have been composed by someone already inside. Handwriting experts could not agree on who authored it. To complicate matters, fibers from the duct tape on JonBenét's body matched fibers from Patsy Ramsey's clothes, deepening the suspicion. There were no signs of forced entry, and strangely, no kidnapper ever called to claim the ransom money. In 1998, DNA testing revealed that the DNA found on JonBenét's clothing did not match any family member, increasing public confusion. Although a grand jury wanted to indict the Ramseys, the district attorney declined, citing insufficient evidence, and no charges were filed. Then in 2003, updated DNA analysis confirmed the presence of an unknown male's DNA on JonBenét's clothing. This individual was not a family member, nor a known associate. The police eventually apologized and formally cleared the Ramseys. The family went on to file lawsuits against several media outlets in an attempt to restore their reputation. Many experts believe that if the scene had been secured properly and modern forensic tools had been used earlier, the killer might have been identified much sooner. Amid all the speculation, the public began to ask, who was JonBenét Ramsey beyond the tragedy? Over the years, millions discussed the case and speculated about the identity of the killer. Burke Ramsey, JonBenét's older brother, was just 9 years old at the time of her death and remained silent for decades, avoiding public statements. His silence led to widespread speculation and unfounded theories about his involvement, though he was never formally charged or considered a suspect. After nearly 28 years, Burke finally chose to speak out. Now in his late 30s, he opened up about the lifelong trauma of losing his sister and growing up under a cloud of public suspicion. He described JonBenét as a bright, joyful girl who brought laughter and light to their home. He talked about the pain of constantly hearing false accusations and theories about his family and the weight that experience continues to carry. Burke criticized how the investigation was handled and specifically disagreed with his parents being interviewed together. He admitted he still doesn't understand the ransom note and finds it frustrating that no one knows for sure who wrote it. He strongly supports the use of new DNA technology to re-examine all evidence in hopes of finding real answers. Burke expressed a deep desire for justice, not just to protect himself, but to bring closure and peace to his family. He also defended his parents, saying they were overwhelmed with grief and didn't know how to handle the horror of losing a daughter while being accused. His heartfelt comments have reignited public interest in the case. Police officials, legal analysts, and true crime enthusiasts are now re-examining the details, hoping Burke's revelations might lead to new insights. Though his statements didn't solve the case, they added a deeply personal and emotional dimension to a story long dominated by speculation and sensationalism. At the center of it all was JonBenét, a cheerful, confident little girl who loved performing in child beauty pageants. She had won numerous titles by the age of 6 and enjoyed dressing up in sparkling costumes, delighting audiences with her charisma. At home, she was a curious and lively kindergartner at High Peaks Elementary in Boulder. Her parents supported her interests, with her mother Patsy guiding her through pageants, and her father John working hard to give her a good life. Despite this, the DA's office wanted to keep all options open, including the possibility that the parents were involved, though there wasn't enough evidence to charge them. These conflicts and inconsistencies further stalled the investigation. Many believed the Ramseys' wealth gave them protection from prosecution or biased media coverage, while others argued they were unfairly judged simply because of their money and fame. In the end, the JonBenét Ramsey case serves as a powerful reminder of how critical it is to protect crime scenes and avoid early assumptions. It also highlights the damage done when law enforcement agencies fail to work together. To this day, the case remains unsolved. People around the world still wonder who killed JonBenét and why. Her story symbolizes a bright young life cut short, and a family haunted by questions. It remains one of the most discussed true crime mysteries, and many still hope that one day the full truth will come to light. What do you think about the mystery surrounding JonBenét Ramsey's death? Share your thoughts in the comments below.